My fiancée keeps letting her abusive family walk all over her, so I gave her one last chance to cut them off, or I'm leaving for good. I've been dating my fiancée for 4 years, and we've been engaged for 7 months. We're trying to plan a wedding for roughly next fall. Her childhood was terrible and abusive, to put it mildly. Her parents were furious narcissists, and she was the scapegoat for her 2 siblings. She was abused and kicked out of the house as soon as she turned 18. However, she was a great student and a hard worker, so with scholarships and a part-time job, she built a great career and is fairly independent. The problem is that she still has contact with her family. None of them have changed. Well, actually, something has changed. They've become more financially dependent on her. They like to slowly worm their way back into her life and emotionally blackmail her for support or whatever they can get. And they don't do it nicely. They're rude, arrogant, and generally enjoy being a nuisance. And where is my fiancée in all of this? Standing quietly in the corner, shaking. I'm not naive. I know there's real trauma. She has a need to be loved by them and hopes that someday they will value her. Before anyone says the obvious, yes, she's been in therapy for this for years. She's tried setting boundaries. For almost 2 years, I tried to keep these jerks away, but this is her house that she bought, and no matter how much I contribute financially or otherwise, she won't let me have a say over who comes in. She's been mentally and emotionally destroyed by them for too long. Recently, she said she wants to earn their approval, that they were right about her, that she has to be better for them. I've had too many emotional conversations with tears and pleas, hoping she would take steps to improve. But she's an adult, I can't make her do anything. I love her, but I can't help feeling resentful about what she's doing. It's agonizing to watch someone you love, someone who knows they deserve something much better, openly destroy themselves for people like her family. It's been painful to watch her cry herself to sleep too many times because of her guilt. I tried too many times to help her break free from their grip, but I have to think about the future. What will happen when we have children? What will happen when she's postpartum and invites her family over? What if there's a medical emergency for either of us? What if our finances get complicated and they still demand money? This is a hellish in-law situation, and I won't be able to avoid them. Tomorrow, I plan to tell her that I want to postpone the wedding until firm boundaries are established. If she refuses, I'm leaving. I can't take it anymore. I refuse to keep watching this slow-motion nightmare. I spoke to her, and it went more or less as one could expect. I'm currently staying at a hotel for a few days and working on long-term plans to move out. She's still struggling a lot, but maybe next week I can put everything together in a single update. Update 1. The night after making the first post, I decided I was going to have an honest conversation with my fiancée about her family. However, she came home early from work the next day, and I was free that day, so she started the conversation a bit earlier than planned. Basically, I told her that this situation is unsustainable, that I don't feel comfortable marrying her due to how involved her family is in her life, and that I certainly don't feel comfortable bringing a child into the world under these conditions. I didn't want to force her to cut contact abruptly. 0, but with strict boundaries in place to start when they could come and what they could do in the house. We also requested that we attend couples therapy before getting married. She didn't like any of it. She looked at me with a sort of grim satisfaction while I spoke, and when I finished, she started yelling at me. She told me that I didn't understand her family dynamics and that it worked for her. I responded that they were abusive, manipulative, and that they were going to drain her emotionally, and I had never seen them show her the slightest decency. She told me that she just had to try harder to be appreciated. I practically yelled that a child shouldn't have to beg and work just to be loved by their parents. Finally, I told her that if she didn't set boundaries with them, I was leaving. She became furious, and since I lived in her house, she kicked me out. So I've spent the past few days in a hotel and moved my things to a storage unit. Honestly, it's been great. By mid-July, I plan to stay with my family for a few weeks and then look for a place of my own. These days I've spent relaxing, catching up on movies and video games I hadn't had time for, and coming home from work to a quiet room without her family wrecking the place. Yesterday, however, things came to a head. We've had practically no contact since I left, but I know that every Saturday her family spends the afternoon there, and she uses me as a shield against their abuse. In a very petty move on my part, I simply kept my phone on silent all day and played Disco Elysium. I knew she would call for help with her family, and at that point, I only felt resentment toward her. I didn't want anything to do with her problems. By the end of the night, she had sent me more than a dozen texts and finally 2 desperate voicemail messages begging me to come back home. I decided to go see her to check on how she was doing. In short, she was crying in the living room, and when I tried to talk to her, she practically crushed me with the force of her sobbing embrace. I gave her time to calm down and asked what had happened. In summary, her parents and brother came to demand money and said terrible things to her. She wanted me to help, but I had been ignoring her. When she tried to get one of her friends to help and everyone basically said no way, it all started to click for her. She kicked her family out of the house, but not before they said cruelly horrible things that I won't repeat. She kept apologizing to me and begging me to come back. I made it clear that I had been accumulating a lot of resentment toward her for some time, and even though I love her and understand that all of this is a result of her trauma, not because she is abusive toward me, there were serious problems that needed to be resolved if we wanted to move forward. The terms were as follows: she sells the house, and we move. We earn roughly the same and we'll buy a home together. I'm an adult and I'm not going to live in a house where I don't have equal authority. Her family will never set foot in that house, never come over, and if they try, I will confront them in a very threatening manner. She begins seeing a new therapist, and we start premarital counseling. She will never make me interact with her family. For now, we will maintain low contact with her family, but make no mistake, we are working toward complete no contact on her part. I told her that I love her, that we've been together a long time, that we have beautiful memories, and that I know she suffers abuse, but this is non-negotiable, and if she has an issue with any of these conditions, we must separate. She told me that she had long recognized that her family is toxic and unhealthy and wants to make changes. We accepted that, although some of those changes will take time. For now, I will continue staying at the hotel until I go to stay with my family. She is welcome to visit me, but I made it clear that her house is not a place I want to be. Tomorrow, we both have the day off, so we will spend the day together and perhaps go out. Obviously, this isn't over yet, but I probably won't post anything more until mid-August. Update 2. Despite my intentions not to update for much longer, hoping to improve my relationship with my fiancée and that she would set boundaries with her toxic family, now we are separated. Basically, what happened was that after last weekend, when I left her to deal with them alone, she finally seemed to understand the situation and was open to changes, including setting boundaries and a possible move. We spent Monday and Tuesday together at the hotel where I was staying until I would return to my family for a couple of weeks. The other night she was being very vague with text messages when she was originally supposed to come over. She arrived much later than expected, and I knew something was going on. She basically told me that I was abusive, controlling, too demanding, and unsupportive. It took me 5 damn seconds to realize that she was repeating, word for word, some kind of rehearsed speech from her parents. And to be honest, I was so upset at that moment that, despite having invested so much in her, I decided to be an asshole about it. I asked her if her family had told her to say that. She replied that they had suggested it, but that she had made it up herself. Sure. I asked her to explain in detail what I had done. She said I was living like a parasite at her expense. I reminded her that I pay 50/50ths of her __ mortgage, 50/50ths of utilities and groceries. I have my own car, which I pay for. A job that earns almost the same as hers, unlike her damn parents' parasites who demand money every week and raid the pantry on weekends. I told her I would try again with something better. She looked nervous and said I was trying to isolate her. I laughed arrogantly and told her that I had always supported her many friendships, which she herself destroyed because no one wants to deal with her family or be used as a shield like I was. At that point, she was practically demanding to know why she was so determined to ruin her life for these people. She just yelled that I didn't understand her family, that she was only trying to regain their love, and basically started rambling. It's shocking to see up close. I've been on some subreddits to gain perspective. And if you're familiar with them, you'll see how people who are victims of abuse by their own family can become so broken that their brain convinces them that they are the problem and deserve the mistreatment. Well, that's how she was. She was completely shattered and didn't want help. She didn't want to get better, only worse. I drove like a truck. Honestly, that realization made me feel really stupid for trying, even if it was what I was supposed to do from the beginning. She was practically out of her mind at that point, and I was mentally exhausted and needed her to leave before anyone called the police. She eventually left, but some concerned neighbors came to check on her. Some of her friends are aware because they sent me messages asking about the situation. I told them the truth and that I just needed to be alone to think about what to do next. They revealed that she had given similar speeches to them after they expressed concern for her. One even heard that she might lose her job. She is definitely experiencing some kind of mental turmoil. From what I understand, she is now completely isolated. She's actually heading toward a miserable, lonely life. There's nothing I can do for her at this point, and as selfish as it sounds, I'm glad this is going to be behind me. Update 3. Things have more or less ended, but there were some loose ends. I forgot to change my mailing address, which I should have done immediately, so a couple of important things were sent to her house. I had to go pick them up, along with a few final items I wanted for my move that I had left there. She was being difficult and didn't respond to my messages about it, so I had to go get them myself. I brought a mutual friend just in case. Fortunately, she at least cooperated enough to let me collect my things, and there was no major issue. Everything else, on the other hand, was a problem. She had many unpleasant things to say to me. She told me that she was already sleeping with others. She told me how happy she was now that I was gone. She said that she was finally free of me and that she would do much better without me. Many of the typical generic things, insults, and horrible comments you usually hear in an ugly breakup. And you know what? It was so damn obvious that it was a rehearsed script by her family, and yet you could still easily see how miserable she was. She looked awful, like she hadn't slept in days. The house was a mess. She didn't even shout when saying it. She sounded exhausted and broken. She didn't even smile while talking, just a contorted face full of hate and rage. She was no longer the woman I knew. That person had disappeared. As I was getting ready to leave, she kept talking. I was done, and I said something like, "Congratulations, your friends are gone, your human shields are gone, your engagement is over, your support is gone. Anyone who ever treated you like a decent human being is gone. It's just you and your family. I hope you're happy while they squeeze you dry." It probably wasn't exactly like that, but something similar. She just stood there. She really stood still, looking at me with indifference, and turned around as I walked out the door. As we were leaving, our mutual friend, Typhon, asked me if I was okay. I reassured her and said yes, that I was just trying to organize myself to return home next week. She also confirmed that she had heard my ex had lost her job for not showing up for several days and basically disappearing. They were going to try to stage an intervention next week and asked me to participate, but I'm not going to delay my trip because honestly, what I want is a clean break. I know perfectly well that if I stay involved, I'm only going to witness her slow descent into total breakdown or suicide. I can't handle that. Despite everything, I'm actually excited for the future, and I've realized that I ignored too many warning signs early on. Even with everything that happened, I know I'll be okay and things will go well for me. I hope this is my last update. She'll still be in town until Sunday afternoon, so something could happen while I'm here, but if it does, it won't be anything exciting. Update 4. I'm currently back in my home state with my family, getting reacquainted with the area. I've decided 100% to stay here permanently, and I'm beginning the long process of looking for houses in the area. I've been doing really well, spending time with friends and family. A couple of mutual friends with my ex-fiancée have told me what's been going on, and it finally seems like things are starting to improve. The plan was to stage an intervention on Sunday, but on Saturday night, after her family visited again, she called her friends in an absolutely manic state and finally seemed to realize how badly she had ruined everything. She had a full-blown panic attack and a breakdown that ended with her in the emergency room. As expected, she finally admitted how miserable she was and that she had seriously ruined her life. Apparently, she tried to call me, but I had her blocked. She still has her job, and the information that she lost it was incorrect, but she's hanging by a thread there. Her boss basically ordered her to use her paid time off for a few weeks to clear her head. She's a valuable resource for the company, and they're trying to make sure she can recover before making a final decision. Her group of friends is extremely close-knit. My ex has always been a very helpful and supportive friend, so it makes sense that her group is going so far to help her. However, there's an unspoken agreement that if she goes back to the same behavior as before, everyone is prepared to let her sink alone. She's as okay as can be expected under these circumstances. Her family has continued harassing her with calls and messages. They've tried showing up at her house, but her friends and even neighbors have firmly rejected them. I hope she really understands the kind of support system she has. As is often the case in these kinds of __ family conflicts, her parents and siblings took everything to Facebook, which, according to what I've been told, ended up being a favor to my ex, as it exposed their behavior to a much larger audience and seems to have quieted them down a bit. Finally, one of our mutual friends sent me a message. Basically, it was her, admitting that all the horrible things she had said to me weren't true and that they had been imposed by her family, as I already knew. She apologized for how things ended and said she hoped that someday we could reconnect. Unfortunately, I had to respond that we need to remain separated forever and that she should only focus on healing, but I told her that I still care and wish her the best, even though this must be our goodbye. The message seems to have reached her, and her friends are helping her process it. She has a long way to go, but I hope she finds her peace, just as I am finding mine. Update 5. I really didn't think I would post another entry about this disaster. If you want the full context, check my profile or some of the update subreddits. I've been doing very well since returning home. All my things arrived here, and I'm currently staying with my family while looking for a house. I already have my work organized here and have been back in the office for the past week. Occasionally, I log in just to comment or make a quick post, and nothing more. Unfortunately, despite all of my ex's friends' good intentions, the situation ended in the worst way, and the friend group was destroyed as a result. My ex took her own life. Almost everything I'm going to recount I only learned last night. Since I left, her friends had been helping her get back on her feet. They pushed her to get better therapy, to set boundaries with her family, to leave the house. They really did everything they could and more. However, Tiffany, the friend who was with me the last time I saw my ex face to face, began to suspect her when she noticed her being overly affectionate with her boyfriend Daniel when they met at her house. I don't know many details about how it escalated, but eventually, she checked her phone while she was sleeping and found very sexual messages between them. And to my absolute surprise, the messages dated back over 5 months. Tiffany obviously freaked out and told everyone. What nobody could have foreseen was the circus that ensued afterward. Daniel, now Tiffany's ex, in a completely reckless move, blamed Joseph, another member of the group, saying he had helped cover it up. Joseph's girlfriend left him and kicked him out of the house. A group of about 9 friends, including my ex, basically exploded, and the only ones still talking are Tiffany and Joseph's ex. While she was telling me this, I realized that although I had been away for a month, all of this literally happened in the first week. Immediately, my ex lost her entire support system and was basically blamed for everything. This only worsened her already fragile mental state. Of course, everyone wanted to know why she had done that to one of her best friends. She just gave the same speech as always, that they had gotten close, that he was a good support for her, and, as usual, that she had already told her family about him and they approved a difference from me. The night I went to a hotel from her house, she invited him over. Apparently, her plan was to eventually leave me for him, but he would never leave Tiffany and hated hearing about her family, so he obviously was never going to go beyond a secret romance. Honestly, I thought I would be much angrier than I was, but I had already started moving on. Also, I had a full medical checkup with my new doctor, including ST tests, and everything came back clean, so at least I didn't have to worry about that. Frankly, at this point, getting angry was useless. I was told they hadn't told me before because no one knew how to drop that bomb on me so late, which I understand. So yes, my ex was completely marginalized, even by Tiffany's ex, who just disappeared. They blocked her and left her to deal with her problems alone. Tiffany only knew that she finally lost her job permanently and was basically spending all her free time with her family. In a way, they won. 2 nights ago, she was found dead in her home. It was her family who found her. One of the former members of the friend group who lived nearby arrived when the ambulance came. Her family was there and didn't seem to care at all. Tiffany called me last night just to let me know. There were several notes, and she asked me with all the delicacy. Possibly she just wanted mine to have some closure. I don't know what to do with that. Right now I feel a kind of brutal mental whiplash. I really never knew this woman. Over the past month, I've had to accept that she was abusive in our relationship by exposing me to all that __ with her family. And now it seems like it was all a way to try to push me away so she could be in the arms of another man her family approved of, which confuses me even more because I wonder what he had that I didn't. They simply enjoyed ruining her life. Something about us was real. Something about the group of people with whom I spent years of my life was real. Coming back here has been the best decision I've made, and now it's clearer than ever. I can start therapy to process this disaster, spend time with a truly trustworthy group of people face to face and not just online, and I have family nearby to support me. But yes, this is going to affect me for a long time. Edit, after a good night's sleep and some time to process, I'm okay. I've received some messages from people showing concern and even sending resources. And please, stop doing that. Haha, I'm fine. Obviously, I'll be processing all of this for a while, but don't assume I'm self-harming or considering anything worse. I'm starting a much better chapter in my life, and I fully intend to make the most of it. I'm still deciding whether I'm going to read the note or not, but I